Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live Q&A for March the 20th, year 2024. I hope everyone is doing fantastically well, maybe even enjoying a little bit of spring weather. It has started to be that spring-like weather here in Texas. Summer already says howdy. Summer is already online. So good evening, Summer. So let me welcome our panel today. Today we have April on our panel. April has quite a bit of healing modalities under her belt. She's a psychic, she's a medium, she offers counseling sessions. So if anybody is willing to do one-on-one counseling, I think you take one-on-one counseling as well, right, April? So please contact April. And then we have Patricia here, who is part of our core group of meditators. Good evening, Patricia. Thank you for joining. So today I have a question for you, April. I don't know if you remember what Joseph was talking about the last time, 2 weeks back. I could not really understand his question around molestation because you said, oh, that is another topic that will take a very long time. So we almost have to dedicate a session to it. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and this is something that what I felt when he was talking about the molestation is, you know, Eckhart always says that we need to bring, and I think even Byron Katie says, the compassion that we bring at that point in time. Yes, we have been a victim, right, of a molestation. It may be a rape, it may be a whatever, some kind of sexual abuse or whatever, what have you. What we are experiencing is what Eckhart says is nobody can act beyond their level of consciousness. So the other person, whoever is the perpetrator, cannot act beyond their level of consciousness. That is the compassion that we need to bring with a certain, and this is a highly sensitive topic, so I want to like treat it that way. I'm sorry if people get hurt or feel like their pain body is going to get activated. Please step away if your pain body, it's a maybe a trigger for you. But what Eckhart says, April, is we have to bring, and this is what I have experienced about myself, is to have compassion for the perpetrator, that they cannot act beyond their level of consciousness, that they are what they are. They have this, one of the things that I wanted to bring up is, you know, people having marital affairs. Dr. Deepak Chopra was saying that person cannot feel, you know, the presence that they are, the life that they are. So they want this little bit of excitement. You know, it is so exciting to have this, oh, I can sneak around, I can this thing around, but they don't show their powerlessness, that I cannot break away from this broken marriage. Right? I'm going to go have this affair. And I feel all of these are very center one activities. You know, the pull of center one and two, like, you know, we are earthly and what Eckhart calls egoic wanting. They're signs of egoic wanting. So I want you to speak to that. I'm going to tag everyone and then I'll come back and talk some more. Thank you. If you want to talk about, it's a really, really serious topic. So thank you.
Yeah, it is a very serious and sensitive topic. Unfortunately, it's a very common topic as well, too. It's something that happens quite a bit. But I do agree that people are only able to act on their level of consciousness, whatever their level of consciousness is. And that's where we've talked about several times. One of my favorite quotes is, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." And that is Jesus's quote. And what he is saying there is they're not conscious, they're not aware of what it is that they're doing. They're only able to make decisions based off of what they know, and what their reality is. And that takes out the concept of right and wrong. Most of the time when it comes to both of these topics, we put in right and wrong. But when you look at it in that view, it takes that out of there. And it doesn't mean that they are right or wrong. It means that that person's framework, to them, it's not about the right and the wrong. It is very much about the 1 and 2 chakra centers, energy centers in the body, which is about your safety, your sense of self, your sense of community, your sense of family. The root chakra, the one that's red at the bottom, that is completely connected to childhood experiences that you have. So the thing about it is when you can look at this and understand that a person is acting on their level of consciousness, then you can take the personal out of it. You can then realize that it was never really about you. It was about whatever was going on with the other person. You happened to be either in the relationship or in that environment, but it's not actually about, because most people who abuse or who are cheaters, you are not the only one. They have done this or will do this to multiple people. And that's kind of how you know that it's really not about you deep down. It's not actually about you, and you are not the problem. It's not because you're bad. It's not because, the world comes after you. It's because these people, this is their level of consciousness. When it comes to cheating also is not really ever about you. It is a breakdown in the relationship, which I have found over the years of working with people that is always about communication. The communication in the relationship has broke down, which then leads to many other issues. It's also about attention. It's about that person that is doing the cheating. I don't know why it is you guys are today. Let me see if it's on here. Can you hear me better?
Say something more. Say something more.
You said that you couldn't hear me either.
Yeah, now we can hear you. Whatever you did. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So cheating is about attention. And again, it is related to the first energy centers of wanting and needing attention and wanting and needing validation. So people who cheat, it's about getting the attention, somebody paying attention to them, and also about wanting like the approval of somebody else. Because if they are able to gain that extra person, it feeds their ego. And that's for both male and female. The question that Joseph was talking about last week was, when somebody is molested or raped, there is an instant crossing of the lines of personal boundaries. It's an instant crossing of those personal boundaries. And there's an instant cross in the line between what love and sex is. So the lines get crossed between what that really is and what that really means. And most people who are molested and or raped will not understand what true love is, and they will think that sex is love. And they will think that in order to get love, this is what I need to do. So this is often when you'll find many teenage girls, it can be boys as well, will be very promiscuous when they're teenagers. Now, some of it's just teenage hormones, but many times it is a person who has been molested as a child, and they think that this sexual act or sexual attraction is how they actually get approval and love. It gets confused. So they don't know how to actually value themselves or have value within themselves without the sexual relationship, because the lines are crossed. It's confusing for them because most of us, this happens when we're children and the brain is not able to fully comprehend what's happening. So the child's mind thinks, oh, they love me because of this. And that pattern, that's kind of more of what Joseph was asking last time. And so when he was talking, he brought it up a couple times, that confusion is what he was bringing up, that line crossing. So does this make sense? Right?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much, April.
Yeah.
Always incredible. Grateful for the input. So when you say it was a what I feel, April, and the reason why I say, because personally I know the chakra one wanting, because to me it is food. It always has been food, and I can feel the pull, the time that I started on, and that's how come I don't move away from the medical medium protocol, is because I know what my pull towards food was. Like I wanted like deep fried foods. I love deep fried foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
The French fries needed to be there, or the pizza, carbs, bread, right? Pizza needed to be there with cheese, and the more carbs there was, the more I loved it. But my body shows the carbs on me, right? So I can understand the empathy and compassion that I have for people that have that kind of egoic wanting, like Eckhart says, right? Eckhart says ego manifests in three ways. One is wanting. I think the first, I don't remember the first one. One was the wanting. Oh yeah, it was wanting, thwarted wanting, which is when people reject you, right? So thwarted, like you're wanting something and people reject that wanting. Thwarted wanting or indifference. That's the like the height of the ego. And I know that the way I equate it and I have the empathy and compassion for the perpetrators is because I can feel within me what that pull is, right? The chakra one activity of wanting food, like it's like in my the whole core of my soul is being pulled into that, right? And it's not easy. It's almost like an addiction, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to offer everyone that is actually experiencing it as a victim, that what Eckhart is teaching us, or any spiritual teaching is teaching us, is to have that compassion towards the perpetrator, that they could not ever have acted any different, because maybe their grandfather or mother or whatever, right? Somebody did that to them, right? They were molested or they were raped. And now it's like something great grandfather did it, grandfather did it, Now father is doing it, now son is doing it. It runs within families, right? It's a hidden, I would say it's even a hidden secret, right? Like in 19th century and 20th century, I don't think people would share, oh, there was molestation. Oprah talks about it all the time, that people never talked about these kind of subjects, right?
Mhm.
And when did she start? In the 70s or 80s,
It was late 80s, yeah.
right? That's when she brought all this out to light. But
Mhm.
but I feel there's a secrecy about it too. But what is going on? Everybody needs to understand that we are dominated by that chakra one activity.
Yeah.
Can I,
The Maslow's hierarchy of needs are in the root chakra. So, which is the shelter, the food, water, having a family, a tribe. That's in the root chakra. Yes.
can I add something?
Go ahead, Joseph. Thank you. Thank you, April.
Thank you both. In addition to what you had said, April, this is also that leaning in emotionally inappropriately, or leaning on a child, or needing of a child emotionally without their permission, without their consent, the irregularity of it. That was also leading, and I'll just share something personal. That was also part of that feeling, part of what my comment was about last time I was on. And that the need, it's that constant need that turned into well, that becomes impulses. And so you keep running to fill that need. You did that as a child, so you keep doing it. And you're not getting it at home. You have to run out, run away, get away from the family, or look outside. Um, that's compounding. That's part of that complexity you're talking about when the children are either are raped or molested. That adds, and that happened for me personally, was when people use acrimony, that false outrage to get somebody to do something, that false anger, creating anything in a rage to get a child's attention. You better do that, look what you did. That kind of, all that kind of vernacular stir the same fears or obligations to have sex, because that's how, for me, the experience occurred. So, like, yeah, there was a lot trapped in there, being trapped in that experience, in those experiences that had to be kind of unraveled. And spiritually, that part of that has been happening, um, taking back there to dice, kind of parse it and untwist it and untangle it.
What was the statement that you made that the parent or whoever it is making, the adult is making?
Well, for example, if there's no other way that, when they use acrimony is all that, the angry, outrage words, the inflection, the high inflections. Um, if you're on the job and your boss is angry and yelling at you all the time for no valid reason, but they yell at you because that's the only way they know how to ensure that you're going to do something. They yell at you, or they use guilt and shame.
So what do they say? What was your statement? What example?
Well, a common one trigger or cue for me was, look what you did. Okay, what? It's that kind of like it's a mixed message, mixed signal. That was one of the. So as a kid, as a child, then you submit to that. Okay, what did I do? And you lay down, and you submit, and you accept that you did something wrong. You don't know what it is, and you never told what it is. But it's to get you. It's a bunch of baloney to get you angry, and to get you in line, or to do whatever they want you to do. And it becomes a type of love. Oh, they must care about me. You don't think of it that way, but you just know it to be love. And you settle for that kind of garbage as good enough, or as love.
Beautiful.
when it,
Thank you, Joseph. I understood. I understood. Thank you. April, you want to talk about it? Actually, Teal Swan, I think she was, I don't know what the details of it are. What is called the blood and sexual rituals? I don't even know what that is. I've
oh,
used, I mean,
know.
I've seen her use it, but she talks about how the adult that was in that, like she was whatever, molested, raped, and all kinds of acts performed on her, right? So she calls it like she was groomed. I also want you to, and Joseph is talking about it, right? Right. I even feel that grooming is there when there is cheating, when there's a marital affair, right? And like if the husband or the wife is going and cheating with somebody, they are grooming that other somebody.
Mhm.
They're being nice to them. They're like, oh, you mean the world. Oh, I'm having such a horrible relationship with my wife or husband, whatever. My marriage is such a failure. My wife is so obnoxious, right? I'm so unhappy with that. But you are the one that's, there's a lot of grooming. Like the grooming part goes on in all these ways.
is it grooming or is it unintentional?
It is grooming. It is grooming. These
That
people.
means that means intentional then. I mean,
Yes.
you touched on something when I tuned in, which was the intentionality or unintentionality. And I believe that wholeheartedly. Unintentional. We're supposed to forgive them for they know not what they do. But is anything in the grooming similar to what they did to you?
No.
In other words,
They are not, they know not what they do implies. It's not that they know not what they do, Joseph. They don't know that they're doing wrong. Hitler does not know that he's
right,
doing wrong,
right.
right? The know not what they do is the fact that they don't know that they are, whether they are cheating, right? Whether they're molesting, whether they're whatever Teal Swan said, that blood and
Okay.
sex ritual, that person does not know that they're using in their powerlessness, they are showing power over a kid or showing power over another woman or showing power over in the marital cheating part, they're showing power over the other woman, right? They're grooming the other person and saying, oh, you are so sweet. I'm so happy with you. I love you so much. I hate my wife or I hate my husband, but I love you, right? They keep you trapped. There is a lot of grooming going on. And this is a conditioned pattern this is showing like in the 21st century or 20th century, how conditioned patterns have come down, right? Generations. April, I'll let you talk about it more. You are more experienced. You actually coach people and counsel people on this day in and day out. So you're the expert. Thank you.
Yeah. So they are unconscious in the sense that this is their norm. Because most of the time it has been passed down generation to generation to generation. Most people who abuse, who do these things, it has been done to them. Even if you have somebody who's, I don't know, just angry, usually it's because they came from a family that was angry.
Yeah.
Right? So these patterns, these behaviors get passed on to the next generation and the next until we get somebody in the family that becomes conscious, that becomes awake. And then the cycle starts to break, starts to stop. What you were describing to me really sounded like to me like manipulation. It sounded like psychological abuse, to where you were manipulated and abused to the point where the only way you were able to get out of this was to do this behavior. This was the only way. And then it made me think that perhaps for a moment the abuse stopped once you gave in. So that would tell your mind, this is what I need to do to survive and to make them happy.
When I get, I'm just going through this now. When I gave in, when I give in, I'm conceding. I'm going back to it, but it's like, for me, it's a makeup. It was like a makeup in my mind. I'm making up. I'm going back to it because I have no other choice. I have to go. I mean, I have to go back. You're a child. You have to go back. You're you're going back in guilt and shame because you're escaping or running led you to believe it was wrong why you were escaping and leaving. You know, you're running away from something, running away from chaos, running away from feeling deceived or the deception or seeing
Well,
it.
there's an instant rip of self-esteem too when these things happen. The self-esteem in a person is instantly crushed. They do not have self-esteem. They do not believe in themselves. They think that they are bad, that they are not good. They think they're not lovable. Those are instant things that happen to people, to the people that this happens to. Those are instant. It happens in a second. And especially if it continues to happen. So,
And it's the intrude. In other words, it's the passive, it's the covert, it's the gestures, the eyes, the looks, the tones, the grunts, the head turns. Those are the subtle, more to me, they're obscure, but they're deeper. Their effect is deeper, and that is the feeling of powerlessness, that obligation, that you're giving and someone's taking. Then it turns dirty, it turns ugly. Because now you're giving because someone's expressing a need, and all of a sudden the signs come that show you, the red flags come. They're taking now. It isn't about a need, it's about a role that becomes anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So Samara asked, does the shadow make the perpetrators do these acts? I mean, it is more about the person, most likely, again, this has happened to them. So it is the hurt people. It's also the wounded ego. So these people normally have wounded egos themselves, and the only way that they can get, Eckhart describes this in his talks, maybe not directly, but the only way, but he does talk about it, the only way that the person can get a sense of power or control themselves is to take control of somebody else.
Right.
And because they were a little child where they were taken control of, it's actually, and this is what Teal Swan, if she's got a video out there where she says this, it's actually their inner child that is the one that is doing it as the adult.
Right.
It is their inner child trying to gain some sort of control.
Validation.
Yeah. And that's where the compassion can come in, when you understand it doesn't make what has happened okay or right. But this is where you can understand how a person could behave that way.
But it's responding to that. Or if you're in that, it's holding your space with that happening and responding to it. And that's a huge place. And yes, I mean, it's their needs. I saw there's a whole generation of people in my age group, and maybe a little younger, a little bit, certainly a little bit older, that were raised on handling, on using acrimony or words or hateful or anger or fear as a way to control and get anything done in the house or in school, or if you're I was
Well, when you
happen-
grow up in abusive environments like that, abusive, manipulative environments, it is scary. So the natural human instinct, when you are scared, frightened, threatened, is to now be on guard. So now it will only take a certain look from your parent or your caretaker for you to go, oh, it will lead to that,
Mhm.
right? It's a defense mechanism
Sure.
where you will be on guard now because they have scared you, they have threatened you. The same, and it doesn't even have to include sexual abuse. If you're just in a very abusive environment, it's the concept of walking on eggshells. You are now watching and waiting for any signs of the anger to come back, right?
If I can share what I saw it as in my experience, sifting through it, is that you have when two people are like that, it's number one, there's an early pattern I found in infancy, toddler years that started that, but there's a back and forth, and it's like if a parent can see, I'm not going to try and be a psychologist here. I'll just say when two strong-willed people are trying to be validated by that person, by each other, they become toxic to each other because opposite needs. They need to control you to feel safe and to feel their power and feel empowered, because your resistance to them, to their manipulatives, to their tactics, is a threat, and they're in fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Sure.
you're not getting validated and they're not getting validated, and it's just goes back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Usually they end up becoming more violent or more abusive or more controlling than the child. They usually find a way to take over.
Or they get other people to, right, they'll get other people. They'll say, this person
Yeah.
isn't doing, they scare me, right?
Yeah. So, and this happens with so this week I have found, again, when I first started my Facebook group, I actually called it Theme for the Day. That's what I first named it. Because as I would work with people throughout the week, I would find that there would be a theme that would run through the whole week. And it was as if the universe was talking to me and saying, this is what we're going to work on this week. And the same thing would come up with each person. And it was amazing. And so this week, the theme is we all have these kind of core issues, these core things that have happened to us. And you may think that you fixed it in one area of your life. So let's say that you're kind of a mean person, or maybe you're grumpy, and you've been able to fix that at work, but then you find that it's popping up at home or with your friends. And the reason that it will pop up in these other areas is because you haven't fully cleared it. So I've had this happen all week with people where they had an issue. One person has extreme anxiety when it comes to work. So they just got rid of the anxiety at work, just went completely away. So now they are all anxious about home life. And it just moved, right? So we also have to look at, when we're healing these deep core issues, that if we haven't fully got it, fully resolved it, fully healed it, it will manifest in a different way. So that is why we do this work, and that's why we have these talks, and that's why we dig into these sensitive topics, because we do want to heal them. The most important thing for this topic, really all topics, but this one in particular, is to realize it was not about you. It happened to you, but it was not actually about you. Many of the thoughts that will come are, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why does nobody love me? Why does everybody abuse me? But it is not about you. It really has never been about you. You've always had worth. You were just around people who were sick or not well.
Hey, April.
Go ahead, Hugh. Joseph, I'm going to let Hugh speak.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
going to
just
put you on mute.
curious.
Sorry, thank you.
I'm don't have any experience down this subject matter, but what's interesting to me is,
You mean to say you were never abused in any way, like no verbal abuse?
oh no,
No,
no, wait, everything, it's, yeah. Oh yeah. We walked on eggshells, and
exactly,
I was ruled with iron.
exactly, exactly.
I was ruled with an iron fist. Yeah. I mean, it's, you had to.
Same.
So, but in there, there's an age, I mean, that where they lose control, and then you stand up to them. I mean, is there? I mean, I would probably say, if you want to talk about my experience in that part, it was as soon as I was my late teens, there's just no way. The tables turned, you know. I was just curious about the people who really been maneuvered. Is there a certain age that,
So it's different for everybody. So for me, I left my father's at 13. At 13, I said, I'm done. And I have never since then. I left. I was like, I'm done with your abuse. So for me, I was 13 and I moved into my mother's home. However, I had not fixed any of the issues. I had not healed any of the issues. Within 2 years, I was married. I was married at 15 years old. So um, you can leave early or you can stand up to them early, but the issues are definitely not healed. Now, some people actually, they may physically leave, but they don't emotionally or mentally leave. They are still carrying that control, that manipulation, that dominant. They're still carrying all of that.
do you have normal childhood memories? 'Cause, I mean, like me, I have like hardly any.
I mean, I have a few, but it's all tainted with just basically waiting for the next explosion. But I have a couple, memories. It wasn't that, hi Dave. So in the grand sense, I had a good life. I lived in a decent home. I lived in a good neighborhood. Anything that I really wanted. So I did gymnastics for like 7, 8 years. My dad made sure I had all the mats. He built me a beam to do back walkovers on. We had a mini bike. We had a snowmobile. We had a tree fort. We would go on camping. Like we had whatever we needed, and he worked full time. He did side jobs. He took me and my brother with him on his side jobs. But, and that's where I can respect him and I can have love for him. But there's all this abuse threaded through it, right? So while I respect and I love him, I choose to keep our relationship. There's a huge boundary in, there's a huge boundary in our relationship, right? My dad is not somebody you can just go chill out on his couch and talk to him for hours. Not gonna happen. So there are several just kind of normal everyday memories, but none of them exist without that kind of looming fear of it could be any minute, any second, right? So that's where I do suggest that you do pull out the good things, such as my dad's very intelligent. He loved to learn. I love to learn. He is a very hard worker. He's still a hard worker. I'm a hard worker. Like these are good aspects. I got good things. My dad we always had a full table of family dinner, sit down, full meal. Every night my dad would work. He'd come home, he'd cook dinner, he'd wash the floor, and then he's out in the garage pulling the engine out of his truck. These are very good qualities. I can respect and love that while setting the boundary and then of course healing myself from all the abuse. So normal childhood is the abuse childhood for most of our generation. Oh yeah. In my day, there was actually one time when the police were called. They come out to my home. We were in our basement. My father told the police officer that I mouthed off to him, which I didn't, and the police officer walked out. Walked out, left. You know, this was normal in my generation. This is how it was, you know. Yeah, Matthias, yeah. I love Matthias. So, and this is where you can pull the good out of the bad. Which qualities did you get? And if you are the one to become conscious, if you are the generational breaker of this abuse, then you have the job, you have the task of becoming more conscious and of healing these spaces and changing the generational lines of abuse.
And the healing would be that you would not be the one, like I'm not the one that did the verbal abuse. I decided as a child that I would never ever use profanity. Never have I used profanity in English or in my own language. So that has been a quality that everyone admires about me. And then I've never hit my son, like no physical abuse. So that is a choice. So then we become the generation that breaks the pattern,
Yeah.
right? So as far as being the victim of this type of behavior where you're groomed into any kind of molestation, rape, marital affairs, right? What I would say is there's a lesson in it, right, April?
For your
It's
soul,
our soul is learning a
goes- yeah.
lesson. Our soul is learning a lesson. So if you want to talk about that, then I'll go to Patricia. Go ahead. Thank you.
So as unbelievable as this sounds and as difficult as this is for many people to accept, your soul did choose certain lessons before it came here. It did choose to go through and learn certain things. Now, the ways that that can manifest can be as many possibilities in the world there are, right? However, you did, before you came, you picked your family, you picked your region of the country, of the world, whether you were going to be white, black, Indian, all of that. You picked female, male. You also picked if you were going to be straight, gay, all of that. You picked all of these dynamics so that your soul could learn certain things. Again, why? Because, and we talked about this in the workshop, because you can't actually know something until you experience it. You can't. You can try, you can empathize, sympathize, but you can't actually know it until you experience it. And many times there's so much damage to self-esteem with these things that go on. Many times our souls, the end result for every soul is to have unconditional love. That's the end goal for every soul on the planet. But if you really chose to work on forgiveness or self-love, then you would pick a harder lifetime. You would pick that, so that now some people make it and they do come out on the other side, like all of us here. And some people, they are not able to fully heal, which does mean that they will have to come back again and try it again. But you did pick these lessons. And I know that that sounds crazy to some. I remember when I first heard it, I'm like, you are out your mind. Ain't no way. There is no way I picked this life, right? But I did pick it, and I have learned, and I've learned to forgive. I've learned to move past it and to grow and work on myself. And the result is, it's better when you choose this road. It is better.
And the way we know, thank you so much, April. So, and then the way we know, what I feel is, I think Iyanla Vanzant mentioned it in her book, Yesterday I Cried, or one of her books. She talks a lot about her uh, rape, which happened like when she was 8 years old or 9 years old. She was saying, so as a child, because we are not, like we don't know presence, right? And we have an unloving parent, I mean, unloving family. So what we are emanating as a vibrational energy is this, please come love me, please come, you know, we're looking for that approval, right? We are emanating that vibrational energy, and the other being unconscious, because they have experienced molestation, this perpetrator is going to look at that vibrational energy and go, how is, they want to serve that love, but the only way they know how to serve that love is through the rape, which is what happened to her. Like she was in the basement somewhere and her uncle was drunk, and I think her uncle raped her or something when she was 8, 9 years old. So it's a perfect storm, right? As children, we are emanating this energy or this archetype of the nymphomaniac kind of archetype, the prostitute kind of archetype, and then the other person just knows how to I mean, the way that they show their love is through that, right? Like the grooming is part of their showing the love. But we are going, oh, they're loving us, or they're showering attention on us, and we're feeling good about it. But actually, that's not the case. It is like they're demented and perverted, that they're not seeing that they're doing something to a 6-year-old child or a 7-year-old child, right, April?
I do believe that they don't see it that way. And I believe some do, and I believe that there are some that it is about power and control, because they actually didn't have any. Now we have some people that are just psychopaths. They're just born, they're psychopaths. And then I believe that the other ones, what they do is they identify with the victim. If you identify with the victim part of you that's being assaulted, then you will not go out and do it to somebody else. But if you're not able to fully connect to that victim part of you, that hurt part of you, then those are the people that go out and they do it to others. So then it becomes about trying to gain control and power. And again, those lines between sex and love are confused. And then there are some that I do believe that they think that they are expressing love or interest or whatever, like you explained. I do believe, yeah.
Beautiful. You are
Can I-
incredibly amazing. Eternally grateful for all your feedback, April. Thank you so much.
Joseph,
Go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, can I add something to that? In the terms of, well, from an inner child view, to me, it's inner children seeking other children. When your children are, as I was healing, going through that, your most vulnerable children, it's like there's a pathway or a frequency that says that adult, there's a connection through the vulnerability, through the wound. That's what it seemed like to me. In other words, that skin knee was like, hey, I got a skin knee too. You got one too. And it's like the skin knee people found each other out. They connected because they all had skin knees. So they found each other vibrationally, energetically, through a commonality, through a wound, through a vulnerability that wasn't expressed yet, or a child wound. So that child alive inside or wounded inside found, kind of hooked up with another child who was similarly wounded. So the wounds were like the adhesive or the connection. The relating stuff, how to relate, that was a little different. But to me, that seemed like the common thread was the type of wound or the similarity, or like for me, when I was younger, I would always I would always sit out in the background. I would hang out in the back. You know, I was always with the misfits. I used, you know, what they would say. I shouldn't say it this way, but um, the nerd pack. You know, he was all the goofy guy. He was with all the goofy crowd. You know, in high school or grade school, that kind of thing. But it was a shared. It was safe. There was something shared. And as I went through the, you know, going through the healing of all those things now in the recent years, I felt that in inner child wise, it was that commonality, that it was a wounded child saying, "Hey, there's a buddy over there. There's a friend over there," and that's where the connection came in. That vulnerability was a chance, or it was an opportunity. It was to be loved. It was like a resonance. There was, you know, people needed to be loved, or children needed to be loved, or something. You know, like that. But that's how I'd seen it.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yep,
Let me
thank
go to Patricia, since it's getting late. Go ahead, Patricia.
Yes, I was just typing my question. So the last part that April was talking about, that some of us, when we truly identify with that victim and see how much that hurt, we decide, like you, Poonam, did. And me, for most part, like part of me was so hurt and I did not want to hit because I was, you know, hit with a belt and as a kid for punished as a form of punishment. So I promised myself that I would never hit my daughter, and I didn't. And the same with cursing. Like my father always used very like hurtful words, and I was allergic to cursing. It's like I never want like anybody just like so sharp in my but in the same time I still abused her somewhat, you know, by being controlling and, you know, really organizing her whole day and making her do certain things. Like, I mean, I didn't force fed her like I was force fed, but I still wanted her to eat good food, vegetable first. Like, so the part then I would just like, please eat it first. And she said, I don't want it. It's like, please eat it first. Like I would, in my own like tenacious way, kind of make her million times have to say no until I finally let go. I wasn't making her, you know, but so in certain things I was able to completely not pass it, but emotionally she still says that, you know, in certain things, like I was a yeller. Like I was yelled at, and so I yelled at her when to discipline her when she wouldn't listen. So how does that work? I mean, is it possible that I could identify with certain parts and not with others, or?
No. So it is, and I did the same thing like with my girls. I didn't hit my girls. And but I was very strict. My father was extremely strict. When we sat down to that family dinner, you had to sit at the table, you had to sit upright, your elbows could not be on the table. All your fork and your spoon had to be here, your knife had to be here, everything had to be passed to the right. You had to say please and thank you. Like he was strict, very strict, right? And that is because that's how his family was. So I wasn't as strict on my girls, but I was strict. They couldn't wear fingernail polish to X age. They couldn't wear high heels until X age. They couldn't, right? I had all these rules because I thought that that's what made a good mom. I was being a good mom, right? But I didn't hit my girls. My dad was also a yeller. So I yelled for, here's the ironic thing, you guys. I yelled for several years and I was like, I have to quit yelling. So I worked so hard to stop yelling. And then I have a deaf daughter. Come on.
Wow, right?
I worked so hard to not yell with my first three girls, and it was work. Like it took work. It really did. And then my last daughter is deaf. I'm like, are you kidding me? Come on. It just, is this a joke? Right? So it's not about being perfect though, Patricia. It's about now you broke that pattern. Now it's your daughter's job to break the next pattern. What it does is instead of getting worse over generations, now it's going to get better over generations. Your job was to be the generational breaker. You did your job.
I guess it was too much to break all of them at once, right?
Well, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to do that. We are only human.
Poonam did it. I know.
Yeah, I mean, but we are only human and we can't do everything. We're not going to do it perfectly. So, now identifying with the victim just means that, for whatever reason, it's most likely part of your soul contract. Yes. That you would identify with the victim and you would hold on to that pain enough to realize you don't want to hurt somebody else, or you would become conscious enough somewhere along the point to where you're like, I don't want to do this to somebody else. And that would be part of your soul contract.
So for those that cannot do that, that obviously is a soul contract too, like, because you said that some people don't
Yeah.
do that and then they passing it.
Yeah, some people, they're not here to be awake. They're not here to do healing. They're here to just be here. And they're here just to experience. Some people, they're just not capable of change and they're not capable of healing. There are people that are like that. And there's a lot of people that they have been through too much. They've been through too much. There's
Yeah.
too much pain and too much damage. But it's really more about the soul contract too. If you are meant to wake up in this lifetime, you will land here on this page or a similar page. To liberate these areas, we don't have to focus on not doing negative. Spend that, yeah. So self-awareness is the key, the absolute number one step in all healing processes. No matter which healing process even if it's you want to change your food habits, you still need to be aware that I want those chips or I want that ice cream. Like, what am I doing? So self-awareness is the key. And then when you see this negative behavior coming, you become aware of the behavior and then you stop and you have a conversation with yourself. What are you doing? Why are you thinking this way? Why are you feeling this way? Where is this coming from? Is this actually a reality? You just start having a conversation with yourself.
And for me, I think the first part was, I remember as a young adult, someone told me that my parents never apologized to me for anything. And that got me like, they didn't, you're right. So if I made that mistake, if I yell at my daughter and in the past, when I still was really doing that, even though I was not able to yet, because it was so fresh, I still was being, the momentum was still there, but then I would just afterwards, when everything calmed down, realize what I did and would go to her and truly from the bottom of my heart apologize.
Mhm.
And then part of it was not to do it again. So, kind of taking ownership of the mistake that happened, and that helped me too. So I had to apologize a few times and be very humble and find myself in that position that my parents never did. And that, I think, what helped me to move towards,
That also
getting.
shows that you're awake. So I've done that with my girls. I just did it not too long ago again. One of my daughters said something and they're like, well, that's what my mom used to do. And I said, well, just because your mom did it doesn't mean it was right.
Oh,
Right?
that's funny.
So I just literally just said that. It was a few weeks ago. I don't remember which kid it was. It was either Chrissy or Candace. I'm not sure which. I was like, well, it doesn't mean it was right. You know,
20 wrongs don't make it right.
no. And you're not going to get it perfect. You're not. The key is that you are growing. You are the generational breaker. You are awake. You are evolving. That's the key. So good.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. That was perfect. Yeah, to find out those things. Give ourselves a little bit of credit. We're here to, to do this. And I mentioned Matthias because that just resonated with me so much. I don't remember what age he said. I don't know if he meant anybody above 20 or 25. So even it's the generation almost like next after us, that we are here to heal the traumas, because the generation that's going after, which is like kids like, I don't know, 10 years old, 15, they need to be in a completely different world. So the more of us that heals it, that's because there was something incredible that he said. I have to listen to that talk again about the job of the generation and AI and the completely different things. So yeah, for us, that's what we chose here in our lifetimes. So that's our job. That's it. So that's why each one of us had that traumas and had a lot of them, because we need to heal the earth.
Yeah, I love Matthias. He's good. Yep, good.
Okay, we can wrap up. We can take your question next time, Joseph. That what does it mean to be awake? We take it next time because it's getting late. Patricia has to go to work. She has to wake up early in the morning. So let's all end the session right now. We are at a good stopping point, because then we'll get into deeper and we'll take another 45 minutes. So I'd much rather stop right now. And incredibly amazing insights, April. So grateful for all your advice and guidance. So eternally grateful. Thank you for choosing your divinity over your humanity and being here. I know Summer, Dave, and quite a few people were there online. So many blessings. Much love.
Yes,
Have a good night.
To you, April, so your day will be wonderful tomorrow and everything starts healing immediately.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.